Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post. I am Ghadi Francis and this is our weekly show where we bring you stories from the world's most volatile region. This week our main focus remains on the historic papal visit to Iraq. 3 days, 4 major cities and 1,400 kilometers. Pope Francis has just wrapped his whirlwind tour to the war-torn nation with a message of peace and love. We get you a frame-by-frame analysis of the Pope's historic visit.
Cari fratelli e sorelle in Iraq, Assalamu alaikum.
Over the past several decades, Iraq has suffered the disastrous effects of wars, the scourge of terrorism, and sectarian conflicts often grounded in a fundamentalism incapable of accepting the peaceful coexistence of different ethnic and religious groups, different ideas and cultures. All this has brought in its wake death, destruction and ruin. Not only materially, the damage is so much deeper if we think of the heartbreak endured by so many individuals and communities, and wounds that will take years to heal. I felt the duty in this pilgrimage of faith and penitence to go and meet a great man, a great sage, a man of God, and on listening to him, you can perceive this. Yet Iraq will always remain with me in my heart.
The focus of the Pope's visit was to highlight the plight of Iraq's Christians. But will interfaith dialogue resolve years of persecution for the Iraqi Christian community?
Among the remote mountains of northern Iraq, nestled in a steepy rocky hillside, is the Rabba Hormiz Monastery. Over the centuries, it has seen invaders come and go, a witness to Christianity's tumultuous history in this corner of ancient Mesopotamia. The 7th century monastery has been sacked and occupied by many, from Mongols and Persians to the Ottomans and Kurds. But Christians here have survived each and every onslaught. Most of them make the winding hike up to the monastery regularly, an attempt to find peace and solace. For them, the monastery is a sanctuary for life and worship, in a country where Christian existence is threatened.
We are under threat of extinction if we continue to stay like this with Christian families being displaced. If the Christians aren't protected, then immigration is the next step.
Iraq's Christian population traces its history back to the earliest days of the faith. But over the years, it has rapidly dwindled. Before 2003, nearly 1.5 million Christians lived in Iraq. Now, only 300,000 remain. Some were driven out by sectarian bloodshed. Others left because of the growing violence. The displaced, however, got rare recognition. when Pope Francis visited the war-torn nation.
Certainly, there will be moments when faith can waver, when it seems that God does not see or act. This was true for you in the darkest days of the war, and it is true too in these days of global health crisis and great insecurity. At times like these, remember that Jesus is by your side. Do not stop dreaming, do not give up, do not lose hope.
In questi momenti cristiani.
The Pope's visit to Iraq was a historic one that could help elevate the situation of Christians. But a visit may not help end the violence these communities face. The 2003 US invasion left a security vacuum in Iraq, one that led to the rise of intercommunal violence. Christians in other communities bore the brunt of this. While interfaith dialogue remains crucial, many in Iraq remain skeptical even after the Pope's visit. Years of violence and war have escalated tensions in Iraq. The country serves as a battleground for proxy wars, and the space for minorities is shrinking. The Pope's trip to the war-torn nation was a crucial one, but there is little it can achieve if Iraq does not help improve the condition of the minorities. West Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
Like always, we will continue to bring you all the latest updates from the heart of the conflict. Don't go anywhere, we have a lot more lined up for today. But first, as usual, let's take a look at what else is making headlines across West Asia.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds talks with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The leaders reviewed strategic partnership between both the nations. Prime Minister Modi also extended an invitation to the Crown Prince to visit at an early date. Yahya al-Sinwar has been re-elected to head Hamas in the Gaza Strip for a second term. This win reflects his control over the group that rules the Palestinian enclave. Sinwar has been the Hamas leader in Gaza since 2017. He was freed in a 2011 prisoner swap with Israel. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his wife Asma test positive for COVID-19 after experiencing mild symptoms. Meanwhile, war-ridden Syria continues to face an economic crisis, compounded further by the coronavirus pandemic and a fragile ceasefire. India will send 500,000 doses of Made in India Covaxin to Iran. The West Asian nation has already received 125,000 doses of the vaccine. This is the first shipment of vaccines from India to Iran. Next week, the country will receive 375,000 doses from India. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to UAE has been postponed. This comes after Jordan delayed granting overflight rights. The rare rebuke from Oman was over a contested Jerusalem holy site.
Houthi rebels and Saudi coalition have been involved in tit-for-tat attacks. Missile and drone attacks are intensifying over the past weeks. Now this comes amid renewed US efforts to end conflict. We bring you more in our next report.
They say nations win wars, but humanity loses. Words tailor-made for the crisis in Yemen. The Houthi rebels are an emboldened lot, bolstered by Washington's decision to delist them. They are striking across the border in Saudi Arabia. It's not unprecedented, but the frequency has Riyadh worried. The latest attack was on Sunday. The Houthis targeted the Saudi crown jewel, Aramco, an attack on Saudi's oil heartland with drones and missiles.
The artillery and drone divisions were able to conduct a wide offensive in the depths of Saudi Arabia with 14 drones and 8 ballistic missiles, of which are 10 Samad-3 drones and 1 Zulfikar missile, which targeted Aramco and Ras Tanura port and other military sites in the Dammam.
The Saudis did not confirm the strikes immediately. They didn't have to, because they were preparing for a reply in kind. The target was the rebel-held capital, Sana'a. Coalition jets pounded the city. There were strikes on other rebel provinces as well. Buildings in the capital were leveled. The ones that were standing were engulfed in smoke. The Houthis had crossed Riyadh's red line. Attacking civilian targets was the point of no return. A strong response was on the cards. An American endorsement made it all the more easy.
Broadly speaking, I would say that we condemn the egregious Houthi drone and missile attack against Saudi Aramco's facilities in Dhahran and Ras Noura and other civilian sites, including Hamis Mushat and in Jeddah. These attacks are unacceptable. They are dangerous. They put the lives of civilians at risk, including the lives of U.S. citizens.
Air power is the coalition's biggest weapon. But remember, this is a battle for land. On the ground, an atrocious offensive is underway in Marib, the last government stronghold. It's a bloody battle. 90 people were killed in a single day's fighting. Countless civilians injured by stray bullets and shrapnel. If Marib falls, thousands of civilians in refugee camps would have to fend for themselves. What's happening in Yemen is a tit-for-tat war. Strikes, followed by retaliatory strikes, and then preemptive strikes. All the while, civilians on the ground watch on as firepower raises hopes for a better life. This isn't a battle for Yemen anymore. It's a theater for the West Asian Cold War. A strip of land where Saudi Arabia and Iran can unleash a battle of egos. The Yemenis are merely pawns in this game, expendable. So where does this end? The UN is still nursing hopes of a ceasefire, but why would the Houthis take the bait, especially since they're gaining on Marib? As for the Saudis, this is the Crown Prince's personal battle, a war he pulled his country into. This to and fro will likely continue. In the end, one side will emerge victorious, but the question is, will they still have a country left to rule? West Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
The collapse of the Lebanese pound, a financial meltdown like never seen before, and a brewing political crisis in the country. Lebanon is reeling from its worst crisis in decades, and security forces are feeling the strain of the currency crash. We tell you more in this report from the heart of Lebanon.
Black smoke billowing from overturned rubbish dumpsters. Tires set ablaze by protesters and key roads blocked across Lebanon. A financial meltdown has brought Lebanon to its knees, and demonstrators are protesting against the political paralysis.
We have said several times, and we repeat, that there will be an escalation, because I don't think the state is doing anything, and the people are not only hungry, but the people have many demands.
Lebanon is in the grips of its worst economic crisis in decades, one that poses the biggest threat to stability since the civil war. The Lebanese pound has hit an all-time low against the dollar, with the currency crashing 85% since late 2019.
I can't find milk for my son in the market because Lebanon's central bank isn't transferring dollars abroad to import it. My car is broken and I can't fix it. My salary is now worth $150 a month. What else can I say? I can't bring home food for my family by the end of the month.
Lebanon's president called for the security forces to prevent roadblocks. But Army Chief General Aoun has warned against pulling the army into political wrangles. Meanwhile, discontent is brewing in the ranks of Lebanon's security forces. A currency crash has wiped most of the value of their salaries, while unrest and crime are surging on the streets.
The dollar is skyrocketing. Wages lost their value. The people are hungry. The people are poorer. Their money are held in banks, and we, as army, are part of this people. The officer also is suffering and is hungry. To the officials, I say, where are you going? What are you planning to do?
The basic monthly salary of a soldier used to be around $800. Today it is worth $120 in Lebanon. Budget cuts even pushed the military to cut meats from its meals. Many caution that the forces will struggle to contain the unrest if the situation remains the same. The collapse has also brought a shift in robberies. More and more people are trying to steal food and medicine. Murders have jumped a record 91% from 2019, while car thefts hit a 9-year high.
It's normal to be afraid of yourself because there is no safety today. The state is in disarray. The most simple things, there is no government to watch over people's situation and businesses. So some people would benefit from this situation to steal.
About 10,000 manhole covers have disappeared in Beirut. The thieves sell the cast iron for $100 each, an amount worth more than Lebanon's monthly minimum wage. Fears of muggings have pushed many to take precautions, like buying weapons or pepper spray.
In every country in the world, when the economy collapses like this, hungry and needy people increase. There will surely be theft. This would happen in every country.
With more than half the population living below the poverty line, it looks like Lebanon's security situation is growing worse every day. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Israel is loosening its COVID-19 restrictions after inoculating more than half of its population. On the other hand, Palestinian hospitals are running full capacity and lockdowns look like the only solution. Here's a look at two contrasting stories on the pandemic.
Intensive care units operating at 100% capacity. All beds occupied in Palestinian hospitals. Full lockdowns over the past 2 weeks and soaring coronavirus infections. Palestine is struggling to deal with the pandemic.
Currently, the problem we are facing is that even the COVID-19 patients that are being hospitalized are of young age. They have difficult breathing symptoms. Currently, the pandemic is spreading a lot in the West Bank, and most of the health institutions and hospitals are completely full with COVID-19 cases.
A few kilometers in neighboring Israel, restrictions are becoming a thing of the past. More than half the population has received a jab. Restaurants and bars are reopening, and students are returning back to school.
The green passport, restaurants coming back to life. We still have to watch ourselves. We have to wear masks, keep the distances that people require, but social distance. But we're coming out of it, and there's not much more. We just have to have a few 100,000 more people, especially 50-year-old, jabbed.
The stark contrast has not gone unnoticed. Israel has launched an immunization blitz of its own population. However, neighboring Palestine is struggling to acquire vaccines. The vaccine inequity is so high that one is 60 times more likely to have a vaccination in Israel than in Palestine.
Of course, Israel has opened because it has the guarantees, it has the vaccines and all of its people have been vaccinated. Secondly, it has a lot of resources and can compensate everyone who is negatively affected by corona. Comparatively, the situation in Palestinian Authority, it's a bad situation. Firstly, we don't have vaccines. Secondly, we don't have the resources to compensate all those affected by the virus.
While Israel extended its vaccination program to include Palestinian day laborers, rights groups have accused Israel of ignoring its duties. They call for Palestinians to be included in the inoculation program. But Israel maintains that it is not their responsibility. Under the Oslo Peace Accords, it is the Palestinian Health Ministry that is responsible for vaccinating the population. While the coronavirus knows no geographical boundaries, the contrasting pictures in Israel and Palestine show that borders make all the difference when it comes to vaccines. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Saudi women are shattering glass ceilings. Women are now dominating in sporting arenas, occupying the places that were reserved only for men in the past. Let's take a look.
If you love something, just go for it. If you see obstacles, just push, push, push until you do the things you love and enjoy life.
These are the words of rally driver Mashal Al-Obedan. She was one of the first female drivers from Saudi Arabia to participate in an international rally. Mashal Al-Obedan and Dania Akil got their driving license 1 year ago. 2 years after the kingdom granted women the right to drive. Since then, the duo have been training for the Sharqiya International Baja 2021 rally. The two of them revved up to make history by finishing first in their respective categories.
Thank God we finished this stage from the race today. This was my first rally and we got lucky with the co-driver, the expert Laurent, and thank God the understanding between us was very obvious.
The changes reflect a loosening of social restrictions, one that has swept Saudi Arabia since Mohammed bin Salman's rise to power. The new reforms are part of the Crown Prince's 2030 vision. And it's not just racing. Women are taking more and more strides in sporting arenas too. While the progress was slow at first, it has now become a deluge. From the launch of the 2014 Women's Football League to Saudi Arabia's first female referee, Sham Al-Ghamdi, doors are opening in the kingdom for female athletes. Saudi women are taking over the sporting world, competing at levels previously reserved only for men in the past. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, bringing you more stories from the world's most volatile region. Until then, stay home and stay safe. I am Ghadi Francis, and you are watching WION World is One.